everybody. Welcome to the Hard Truth Inside the Football Industry podcast with me, Philip Heitzen, and Darragh MacAnthony, chairman and co-owner of English Championship side. Still sounds good, I'm sure. Peterborough United. How was your weekend, Darragh?
Well, we should title this episode late fucking drama in both games for Bradford and for Peterborough.
To the final whistle.
I mean, I saw your game and obviously you saw our game, and we talked about playing to the final, but you know what? It goes to show you in football, you do play to the final whistle. And it's like too many times teams give up, don't they? And it was weekend was really good, to be fair. But you know me, I've been pretty relaxed. Even you know, we didn't speak obviously after we got tanked by Plymouth on Tuesday, but you know, again, a lot of overreaction from some. You know, people already questioning recruitment. Forget the cup game. So it's one league loss, and it's like baby out with a bathwater. You know, it's Peterborough, destroyed the this, the that, recruitment. We got the right players in. We signed Ollie Norwood, you know, spent a few grand on him. People are like, oh, is he going to be good enough? Another League One player. And it's just a constant barrage. And I start getting the trolls hitting me during the week. And you're sitting there, I'm watching Brentford Arsenal on Friday night. And I'm listening to the Brentford people talk about, you know, the recruitment. You look through their team, the amount of League One players they've recruited that were in that team on Friday night. They beat Arsenal, and you're like, there's nothing wrong with our recruitment. Our recruitment's phenomenal. It's as good as anybody's. And I'm sick of people just going on about, why aren't you signing a 28-year-old with championship experience? Well, a 28-year-old with championship experience isn't playing for Peterborough United, with all due respect. A good 28,
unless you're backing up the truck full of cash, which you don't want to do.
Phil, not even then. Yeah. Not even then. And this is where people have to understand, not even then. You're signing a 28-year-old who's probably been injured the last 3 fucking years, who hasn't played much, who wants a chance and are pretty much a fucking crop. And that's what you're signing. Because even if I was a billionaire, even if I was backing up the truck, you've no idea, people, they won't want to come to Peterborough because they'll be automatically thinking, well, we're in a relegation battle and I want relegation release clauses in my contract, and I'm only coming for the money. I'm not coming for the love of your club. I'm not coming for a chance. So it's just a no-go. You know, if our fans want to realise the time when we're going to be signing championship players per se, and we will maybe in the future sign a couple, will be when we've done a Brentford and established ourselves championship, where you've had basically 2-3 years of consistent growth in your league position, when our stadium is full of 16,000 people, when we become that mid to higher tier club, we change the hearts and minds of what Peterborough are. You know, even Sky Sports, everyone looking at the game, Wayne Rooney after the game, these are the types of teams we need to beat. That's disrespectful just in that comment, but that's the mindset about Peterborough United. So once we change all those things, and it's winning hearts and minds, and I've always said this, it's going to take time. Once you get through that trajectory, and I said it during the summer when we were recruiting, you know, right now, anyone you look to recruit, they're thinking, oh, we're not coming to win a league title or win a promotion. We're going to be in a fight. So it's not an attractive proposition for them. That's the outside view. So the only way we change the outside perspective is what we do inside. And that's, I keep talking about the inches. And, you know, I was never worried about losing to Plymouth. I was never worried about losing to Luton because last year we lost the first two, dumped out in the cup, lower league team, lost our first league game at Accrington. This year we did the same. We then played Fleetwood last year. We're 1-0 down. We go into injury time against Fleetwood. We score 2 goals in injury time to get up and running. And then we get to Derby on Saturday. And it's funny because everyone's going on about all the problems at Derby. This. But I want somebody who's listening to the podcast to put up the amount of championship experiences in that Derby 11 versus the championship games in the Peterborough 11. Mm-hmm. They're back to Stearman and Curtis Davis probably have 600 championship appearances between the two of them. Never mind higher. All right. And then we're listening about, well, Derby have got young players. We've got the youngest squad in the championship. The average age of our squad is 22.8 years old. Yeah. When you take the 26 players we have in the squad and everything else, and you include our under 23s in the overall squad, we have the youngest team. And again, I think we had 4 teenagers in a match squad and 4 or 5 homegrown youth academy players as well. And one of them obviously came on and did very well. But the point is, it's all that the narrative is Derby's problems, Derby's issues, and oh my God, and they're expected to be battered. And then you look at their team and you look at probably the wages and some of those players where they've played. And then you got little old Peterborough. And, you know, we go out and it's a nothing game. Derby are tip-tappy around. You know, we probably looked a little bit more, cutting up front as regards to we got in better positions.
Yeah.
But you can tell Jack Marriott and Clark Harris, who played together for the first time, I think they've had an hour of football each, 20 minutes to an hour each, all pre-season. You've then got Dembele, who's injured, who's just come back on the bench, hasn't played for like 2.5 weeks. Norburn's been away on international duty, makes his debut. You got the best central midfielder we've had in years, Jack Taylor, is not available in the squad. You got Sammy Smodux, who scored 17 goals from January to May. He's just had a baby. He's not in the squad. You've got another one of our strikers, Ricky J. Jones, who gets his chance against Plymouth on Tuesday. And after 20 minutes, we think he's done his ACL. It turns out he's done his MCL, so he's out for 3.5 months.
Right.
You know, you couldn't write the shit going on behind the scenes that we're trying to overcome. So whilst everything's going on the pitch with bad results and the negativity and the trolling and everything else, I know the other side of the international break, we're going to be a different proposition. We'll be fitter, we'll be stronger, we'll have all those players back. You know, Marriott and Clark Harris hopefully will get a good run of games. They'll be in the best condition they've been in. You know, Jack Taylor will be fully back in the team. You know, all those issues we've had will be gone and in the past. So whilst it's important, yes, to get a win or whatever on this side of it, I'm not losing sleep about the recruitment. I'm not losing sleep about what we have. I know what we have is a good championship squad. I know what we have is going to grow into be a really, really good championship squad and surprise a lot of people. So watching the game, it's a nothing game. Marriott's gotten some great positions, completely rusty, probably would have scored 2 in another day. Clark Harris the same, but fair play to him. He still did 90 minutes again because he's a machine. But he's like a mile off fitness. And they score on the 70th minute. Shitty corner. Our goalie in 103 minutes hasn't made a save. So all the talk about Derby dominating the game and their manager afterwards, and even one of their players was saying, oh, you know, we should have won that game. Load of fucking bollocks. Because come the 70th they score, it was the best thing that could happen to our players, because it finally said to our players, do you want to score goals or do you want to be frightened little fucking lambs to the slaughter? Because you're good enough, believe in yourself. Now you got nothing to lose. You're 1-0 down in front of 10,000 home fans. Get fucking going and show everyone why you belong. Well, the last 25 minutes was a lesson in fucking late fucking pressing energy, because we probably could have scored 5 goals. No word of a lie. You watch the highlights back. Now, the manager's made 2 brilliant substitutions. He's brought on Harrison Burrows, 19 years old, been with us since he's 9, put him at left wing back. He's taken our left wing back, Butler, taken off Beavers, our captain, and put Butler as a centre back. All right. And then he's moved everyone up the pitch, and he's left one centre back basically back to go one-on-one defending. Because at that stage, it doesn't matter if you lose 2 or 3-0, you need to go for it. And he's obviously brought on Dembele. And we've just dominated them. Our wing backs. The goal itself for Burrows is a great example of how we want to play. Joe Ward's a wing back. Harrison Burrows is a wing back. From one wing back to the other wing back, go. And the one thing it showed is when we put crosses in, and we've always said this, we win lots of football games. And we must have Burrows delivered 4 crosses that, and any other day, Clark Harris would have scored twice.
It was a game changer when he came on. I watched the game because it was on TV here as well.
It was a game changer. Would you agree we dominated them for the final 25 minutes?
Yeah, it's funny. Like you said, nothing game is probably a good explanation. Like, there was just nothing happening. It was one of those kind of things where you're looking and thinking, should I really have watched the Man United Leeds game? Because here it is 5-1, you know, and you're still 0-0 and there's not a lot happening. And then when you made the change, it just you had a different dimension.
And when Joe Ward finally believed in himself, because the thing about Joe Ward is, if Joe Ward believes in himself, he'd play probably top 6 championship football, and he'd go for a lot of money. Because what he has got is he was the leading assist maker in League One. When he's on it and his mindset's positive, he's unplayable. And for 65 minutes, he played within himself. For the final 35 minutes, he was the best right wing back in the championship.
Yeah.
He was non-stop down that side. Burrows was non-stop down the other side, and suddenly you saw Peterborough United. It was pressing, it was high action, it was goals, it was crosses, it was shots, and it was late goals. And what we have is, showed our fitness as well. People want to question our fitness. That's how strong we were. We ran all over them at the end. And the other thing it showed was we've got game changers on the bench because both subs scored. And the other thing it showed was that when we have confidence in what we want to do, we can win football games at this level, and we can win a lot of them. And last year, we were the best team in the country from coming from behind. And the question was, can you do that in the championship? Fuck yeah, we can do it in the championship, because we just showed. So for the fans, electric, because missing that Lincoln game with no fans, I mean, imagine what they would have been like that day. On Saturday, if you saw the atmosphere for the winners, you would have seen a Valley Parade with 18,000 fans or whatever. It was electric. You could soaked that atmosphere up. The fans drove our players. The energy in our players that last 10, 15 minutes came from our fans. And of course, having the Dembele's been able to come in and do what he does, that's massive. Do you know what I mean? So, I wasn't surprised by the result. I was disappointed afterwards. I dug out Sky because the in-game commentators were good. I felt the studio, after the game, we timed it and did it. They spent 92% of the time talking about Derby and Wayne Rooney. They interviewed Wayne Rooney for 4.5 minutes. Our manager got 34 seconds live on air. They spent fuck all time talking about really our goal scorers. They wanted to focus on Derby's 19-year-old who scored a consolation goal in the end, forgetting about our 19-year-old who absolutely fucking ripped up the game when he came on. So that was disappointing from that perspective. Do you know what I mean? That it's the usual Wayne Rooney show at Derby. Give me a fucking break.
We get the same in League Two when it's the Salford show. So, it's, I guess it's just one of those things that
Sky let themselves down. So they let themselves down by crap. They let themselves down, and that's their whole focus. Do you know what I mean? And if that's the way it is, I couldn't be fussed about them coming and filming games, because the reality is, versus the TV money versus the extra gate we would have made more money. So sure, come to us in League One, we could do it with the money. But in the Champ, we would have got another 2,000 Derby fans on the gate, another probably 1,000 Posh fans, probably would have made about 30, 40 grand more. Now, that's not a headline for Alan Swan to come out and say, D-Max says Sky are never to come and film a game ever again, because that would be bad for business. But if people listening get the gist, that's why I was upset afterwards, because, again, it's always like, Wayne Rooney's Derby County. I mean, Wayne Rooney's not a football player anymore. He's a manager now. That's what he is. He's a manager. And my manager has been around a long time and is a very, very good manager and doesn't get credit for what he does. So, look, positives from Saturday. Home win. We got great home form. We have done for 2 years. That's going to be crucial. Confidence and belief for the players. Game-changing substitutions from the manager. He was on his game, because I'll be the first to say when he's not on his game. So he was on his game. Showing the football world that we've got some excellent young teenagers in our squad that can make a difference in this league when we get criticised for maybe pushing our younger players when they're not ready or good enough. Well, we've got a hell of a lot of good players. The final bit is our players are getting fitter. The ones who are still out will be coming back. They will make us stronger. And Norburn, it was an excellent debut from a guy who's played fuck all the last 2 weeks. And he's an ugly, scrapping midfielder that we've maybe missed, where you watch him. And when I say ugly, I mean, he does all the stuff you don't want to do as a footballer. You see him digging in. He's nibbling at people's heels. He's making tackles. He's screaming at our players. He's driving them. He's a leader. And it's funny, the football secretary said to me the day we signed him, he rates himself, this lad. And I said, oh, in a good way or a bad way? She said, no, in a good way. She goes, he's very confident. And I said, look, he's 28. He probably should have played higher sooner. And I'm glad he rates himself, because we need that kind of character coming into our dressing room. Because a lot of players, sometimes the younger ones, will be like, oh, do we belong? Can we play at this level? And he's going to bring in an air of authority and confidence that they should have. And he showed on Saturday. He was excellent on Saturday. So lots and lots of positives. Another great test on Tuesday. We're playing a team that will just pulverize us with long throws, very physical, very direct. Fair play, Mick McCarthy. That's what he does at Cardiff. I'm watching the throw-ins and the highlights from their game. Fuck me almighty. I mean, if we don't defend well, they'll fucking destroy us. But we've got enough in attack to fucking do the opposite to them. So it'll be interesting, but really, really enjoyable. More than anything else, I just enjoyed the banter with the fans. I enjoyed seeing the fans happy. I came out afterwards. I couldn't get to my car. Fans were outside. I dare say if it was a loss, it would have been an easy walk to the car with no one outside. But it was like,
and things being thrown at you rather than people wanting to come and say hello.
Correct. And I want to apologise to the fans with the queues, the issues with the catering. We had the pandemic strike us on Saturday morning. I arrived at the club. I got told all our chefs were gone. Loads of staff weren't there. Stewards weren't there. They'd signed up to this stupid ping thing, where basically they got pinged on the Friday night. Mm-hmm. So we were missing loads and loads of staff, to the point where one of the cleaning staff had to cook the breakfast. It was that bad. Bob nearly put his apron back on to cook, because Bob used to be a chef. So It was really high. And I just said, put out a message on social media to fans to allow for patience today. It's going to be laborious. It's going to be irritating in some sections, but this is the shit we're dealing with. And it's not a case of having an extra 20 staff in reserve. It doesn't work like that with the companies you deal with. So they're all the little things that we're just still, as we're coming to the end of the pandemic, that we're still kind of dealing with. But Yeah, it was great because Saturday that was the first time I watched all the highlights on Saturday night. I slept well. I was like, and look, winning makes everyone feel better, but it's not a cup final. We won a league game, so it's just the start, and we want to do a lot better. So, but yeah, good day.
I hope that Dembele was in on Sunday for extra goal celebration training.
His shirt is
Right.
Those shorts are a bit tight, maybe. All that sweat and everything else. But listen, it was great to see him do well, and there'll be a lot of question marks over the next couple of weeks. I wish Barry had stopped speaking to Alan Swan. I have told him he's not allowed to, but he keeps breaking that fucking rule. There's a headline today that it'd be suicidal if Posh sell Dembele. That was from Barry. And everyone's going about Dembele, and just the shit I've got to deal with. Honestly.
Right.
So when I sell him, that'll be thrown back in my face.
I know.
And that's my director of football.
Going against Baz in selling Dembele.
Well, yeah. I mean, Baz needs to toe the company line because he knows exactly what we're building this summer, and he knows all the intricacies of that. So making a headline like that just drives me fucking mad. So I'll be slapping the shit out of him later when I speak to him. You know what I mean? So yeah. Fuck me. And the irony is he'd be the one who'd be fucking ringing everyone trying to sell him get his commission. But anyway, it makes for good newspaper reading. But yeah, listen, that's life. We made an agreement with Sariki that if the right offer came in, we'd let him move on. It's not as easy as sign him on a new contract. He's not really there where he wants to sign a new contract. I've worked on that. I've spoken to his agents. I'll try and speak to his family and him again. I think bids will come in because of what he can do in the Championship. If we had longer left on him, he'd be probably 10, 12 million pounds. So if the bids don't come in, he'll stay. And that's the way it is, you know what I mean? But we've done our business this summer on the basis that he'll probably go. And people are saying, how do you spend the money? Well, a lot of money of that money's already been spent. That's just the way football works, particularly during a pandemic. So we'll see what happens the next couple of weeks, but we're very relaxed about it, and it's exciting stuff.
Yeah, and when you were talking about crowds, it kind of gave me the goosebumps thinking about everyone being back. And you mentioned for City, we had nearly 18,000 at Valley Parade. I think it was the fifth biggest crowd.
I saw your tweet. Yeah. Bigger than Brentford's crowd, bigger than all. I mean, yeah, outside the Premier League, it was the biggest, I presume. Was it?
I think it was the third or the fourth biggest outside the Premier League. There's maybe Forest, Sheffield Wednesday. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody else, but Middlesbrough.
It's a disgrace that club's not at the top 10 of the Championship. An absolute travesty. Honest to God. It's like, when you go through the years and you go your Coventry's and you go, your Ipswich's and your Portsmouth's, those big clubs, and then Bradford, and you're like, my God, how on earth is that club in fucking League Two? I mean, God, give me the revenue from 17 to 20,000 people on a Saturday, and imagine what I could do with any football club. That's where we've worked miracles at Peterborough.
Yeah.
In League One and League Two, with crowds of 5,000 to 7,000. Give us the revenue that, like, what Bradford have done. And my God, sky's the limit. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, listen, Ryan's a good guy. They've got a good guy in place now, so hopefully they're going to steer the ship and get going, because that is a club that will just go bang, bang, bang. If it's all put right, and you've got the fan base, and fair play to the fans. They show up no matter what, and that's a tremendous, credit has to be given to the Bradford faithful who've watched them go up and down and go through the shit the last 18, 20 months and then show up like that Saturday. Mm-hmm. I mean, were they good? Were you good for the win?
I think it's a performance we're going to have to get used to. 30% possession, 35% possession. But Oldham are kind of our bogey team, so it's actually nice not to lose to Oldham for a change, even though people are saying, well, Oldham are in disarray and that they're really going to struggle. I mean, they've still got some pretty good players, and they've got Bambula, who is as good as anyone in that division when he's on his day. So yeah, I mean, it was one of those where it was 1-0, you could see them scoring and you thought we'd got away with it. And of course, 92nd minute, they're going to equalize. But they did. Then they started time wasting and messing around. And I think one of the things for Derek Adams is, again, play to the final whistle. They've made a lot in pre-season around, like, when you don't think you can go any further, you run another lap or do another whatever it is, because you got to keep going.
Run more than the opposition. Basic principles. Do you know what I mean? And funny enough, when you do that, majority of the time you win. So football can be technically very complicated at times, but it can also be very simple when you bring it down to the simple things. Run more than the opposition, put more crosses into the box than the opposition. You'd be amazed at the probability of winning when you do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it just, we got lucky. We got a penalty 8 minutes into what was supposed to be 6 minutes of injury time because they'd been doing some more time wasting, and probably the worst penalty you'll ever see that actually made it into the back of the net.
I saw it from Lee Angol, a guy we spoke about the other day. Were you impressed with Lee Angol?
He scored 2 goals, so you'd think I would immediately say yes, but he missed a few easier chances. So, I mean, I'm glad he's scoring because hopefully that's going to be good for his confidence. But, on his day, on a striker in form would have had a couple of others. So he had a lot of chances.
But you're playing a counter-attacking style of football. Mm-hmm. That's what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah.
So, and you're saying the possession was basically 65% to the other team?
Yeah.
Will Bradford fans put up with that? Will 17,000 Bradford fans constantly put up with that?
If we win.
Will they?
I think we've had so much crap the last few years that you didn't really notice. So, when you think of the successful periods we've had in the past, with Phil Parkinson wasn't exactly the prettiest football in the world, but he got results. And when he got results, it's still kind of this, it feels like it's an attacking pragmatism, if that makes sense, rather than a just sit back and wait. So where on the other hand, we've had people like Peter Taylor back in the day or Gary Boyer a couple of years ago, where it was just really just sitting back and it was not good to watch. And we never really looked to make any chances. And that's when people get on your back pretty quickly. So I think as long as we turn that into chances, at the end of the day, and I'm sure it's like every other club, we just want a bunch of players who look like they're giving everything. And you see that kind of change in mentality in the players that
you're going to win promotion. You've got the manager, you've got the fan base. You will win promotion. You'll probably need a couple of bits more business done, and you probably need maybe a bit of strengthening in January just for the final run in. But there's no doubt in my mind you'll win promotion.
Right.
So I fancy now to win the title, but if you're not top 2, I'll eat my dick and it'll be the longest snack you've ever seen in your life. So that's how confident I am on Bradford this year.
It's not felt this. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it feels like everything's in place.
It's time. It's time. So that's exciting. That's good. So no, it was a great football weekend. To be fair, I mean, Premier League's back. The goals are flowing. Some surprises across the leagues. What else do you want to talk about? What are we getting into? Let's not talk politics and let's just keep or talk COVID. Let's just talk football because I think that's more favourable with our fans.
We got lots of football still to talk about as well. So one of the things I want to do each week is kind of ask for your performance of the week. And we can both kind of come up with something, and the only proviso is it can't be our own teams. So who impressed you the most this week?
The best performance for me was probably, you could go to the Bolton-Wimbledon game 3-3 Plough Lane. Great result. Some cracking results in the Championship. QPR away at Hull, battered them. But you could go down the leagues, obviously, to League 2. For me, Burton, Jimmy Floyd, Hasselbank, another club with a manager that when he's there, they seem to do really well. I think they beat Ipswich. The reality is Ipswich are heavily favoured. They've spent a lot of money. I think they've just agreed another big fee with an Accrington Stanley. Defender Burgess is going there. So, it hasn't been a great start for Ipswich, but early days again. Like I said, Blackpool last year signed 17 players and they took a few months to get going. And when they got going, they were very good. So I wouldn't panic if I were Ipswich fans, but the Ipswich fans will get frustrated if they don't get a win in the next 2 or 3 games. So that was one of the better results of the weekend. Yeah. Who else is in there that's impressing me at the moment? Who in League 2 for you?
So for me in League 2, it was Stevenage winning at Bristol Rovers.
Did see that, yeah, but that doesn't surprise me. Obviously, Bristol Rovers are in disarray. I think Barton's lost 2 games in a row. I'm not sure what's going on there, what they're waiting for. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I'm the hatchet man, so he'd have been gone already for me. And Bristol Rovers is a massive club. But in fairness to Stevenage, their manager, since he's gone in there, Ravel, I mean, he's done a phenomenal job. I mean, if you go from February to now, they're probably top 7 in form, aren't they? So,
and we play them on Tuesday, so this will go live after we played them at Valley Parade, so that's going to be an interesting one for us.
He's made them very hard to beat. And I think I had scouts at that game, watching some players, and not necessarily Stevenage, by the way. But that's interesting one, Stevenage, what they're doing there. Oldham have started well. Again, they're getting results. Beat MK Dons, but then again, MK Dons have gone and got a new manager from abroad. Oh, he's an English manager, but he's come from coaching abroad in the Man City football group. Portsmouth, Danny Cowley doing what he does. As much as people were writing them off, they've been very resilient and won again comfortably. They're going to be big and strong. I think Wigan won. That was a good result. Who did they beat?
It was like I think I seem to remember it was 6 minutes into injury time or something.
I think they beat Rotherham, didn't they?
That was right. Yeah, it was Rotherham.
Yeah, and that's not going to be an easy win. Middlesbrough did well in the Championship, impressed me. Typical Neil Warnock.
What about Fulham beating Huddersfield 5-1 at Huddersfield?
Yeah, but that's not going to surprise you either, because Fulham are going to be like that. Fulham are going to smash the life out of some teams, and then they'll lose the odd game. But those big clubs, the West Broms, the Fulhams, the Sheffield United, when they, again, everyone gets so caught up in the first 5-6 results. Mm-hmm. It means nothing, because those teams, everything's not going to take shape till after the international break, where you're coming into the second week of September. So that's when you start seeing managers have got more time with players, signings have been made, fitness levels are up. Trust me, that's when you really look at it and go, okay, now we can kind of see who's going to be the real challengers in each league and who's going to take the baton. And then you get into how does Christmas shape up and so on and so on. So, Fulham will smash a lot of teams. They've got a lot of firepower. I don't think they've finished. Bournemouth have done very well. Good start for Scott Parker. Mm-hmm. They've got injury issues. They've got some problems. They had a good win. Who else in there? There was. You look at the Championship, some fascinating results. Luton obviously were getting battered by West Brom, which showed how strong they are. They came back to 3-2. Never in danger of, I think, getting back in the game. They were late goals.
I think it was 8th minute into injury time, wasn't it?
Yeah, but you know what? Fair play, because that shows spirit, that shows grit, that shows determination. That shows that you're not going to just lay down and get battered. And you want that in your players, because you can take that into the next game. Mm-hmm. It's great for football to be back, because the Premier League, obviously, with the change with VAR, it's a lot more fluid. There's less fouls been given. There's offside goals been given that wouldn't have been given last year. There's a lot more goals in games. I'm watching the Liverpool-Norwich game. I fucking look at the Liverpool midfield of Milner, Oxlade-Chamberlain and Naby Keita, and I'm thinking, if we win a league title with that central midfield, I'll tell you what, it's the miracle of all fucking miracles. So, but
Van Dijk isn't that good then to cover for a dodgy midfield.
No, it's great to see Big Verge back. I worry about the left back who was in there. He was good for 70 minutes, and then he fucking went the last 20 minutes. He looked like a fucking League Two left back. The central midfield worried the shit out of me, but we got away with it and won the game comfortably. Norwich had chances. But again, you worry about Liverpool's squad when you see that central midfield. You're not winning a league title with Oxlade-Chamberlain and James Milner in your midfield. For me, Oxlade-Chamberlain, since his injuries, he's not been the same. Milner's always going to give you his all, but again, he's 35, 36. I'd still like Liverpool to do something in there. I'd love them to go and get Renato Sanchez, the Portuguese central midfielder, who looked great again in the Euros. He'd be an unbelievable addition to that midfield for energy, next to Fabinho and Thiago or Henderson. So, little things. Then I watched the Spurs game yesterday. Typical Nuno performance. What he did at Wolves. He beat City, I think, a couple of times as well, with all counter-attacking football. Spurs looked very good. It was a very good win. People were texting me about Man City. I said, forget it. Man City will win the league by 10 points. I think last November, December, they were 10th. And they won by 15 points in the end. So, early days, again, Guardiola, give him time and all the internationals are back and everyone's fit. Fuck me almighty, they'll run all over that league. So, Chelsea looking strong. I like Tuchel. I think he's a very good manager. Brentford on Friday night, I had a thing with my manager. We were texting and I said, Brentford will win. He's like, no chance Arsenal will win this game. I said, you're a football snob. I said, Brentford will win. And I said, what I was really texting my manager about was we've hired a set-piece coach. And I was saying, and I actually got into him on Saturday before and after the game. I said, look, our analyst has to get you all the footage of teams like Barnsley, Brentford last year. This is what we worked on during the summer, the little inches that we're going to do well at this league. We need to be better at throw-ins. We need to be better on our set pieces in both boxes. We lose 85% of our throw-ins that are our throw-ins. So all those little things, if you watch the way Brentford do things, those inches got them promoted. They were number one for set-piece goals last year. And it's so important if you want to compete with the big boys, having those little differences that maybe they don't focus on as much. And Liverpool, when they won the league 2 years ago, they had a free kick and a throw-in specialist. So they're the little things that will make you better. And I was big on that on Friday night with Brentford. I love the way their set plays. And Ivan Toney was man of the match. He was sensational. He's going to rip the Premier League up. Absolutely no doubt in my mind.
Now, do you think that Brentford game was, and that result was just all these things coming to a head in, like, it's almost like a destiny that they're going to win that game, or they're going to be able to carry that forward?
No, I think they're really good at home. I think they're really, if you look at Brentford, the simplicity of their formation and what they do, the three centre backs are three towers, right? Might be the best on the eye football wise, but they've always had three towers in there. Last season, this season, they brought a Celtic boy in. They then have wing backs, obviously, that go high and are talented. They have scrappers in midfield, and then they got physicality and pace up front. That's their recipe for success. They won't, for me, change much from the 3-4-3, or if you want to go 3-5-2, whatever it might be. They will play pretty much, in my opinion, that three at the back, 85% of the season. And for me, I've said they will be top 14 in the Premier League, because I think they will win a lot of home games. They will surprise a lot of teams. And even though Arsenal maybe dominated the ball, the possession, Brentford probably the best chances in the game. So not a surprise for me at all. I would have put a lot of money on that if I was allowed bet. And I said to my manager before the game they'd win.
Now everyone's already writing kind of the post-mortems on Arsenal on their season. Sure. I mean, how long are Arsenal? Are they just found a new level, which isn't a level they've been used to? You know, kind of low.
No, you don't spend 72 million on Pepe, 50 million on Ben White, 50 million on Partey. The money they've spent more than Liverpool the last few years. No, they haven't found a new level. That Arsenal squad's good enough to compete top six. If Leicester can do what they do, Arsenal can do what they do. Someone made the point last week that James Maddison staying at Leicester is the sensible thing to do versus going to Arsenal. Yes, you're absolutely right, because no longer can we say Leicester are a small club. In the last 6-7 years, they've won a league title, they've won a cup final, they've been in the Champions League, they've produced unbelievably great players. The recruitment's second to none. Rodgers has them playing a style of football that's as good as anyone in the top six. They should have been in the Champions League twice the last 2 years, if not once at least. And they continue to recruit well. And for me, they're expanding their stadium. They've got the best training ground now in the Premier League. They've spent like 100 million on it. It's got its own golf course. If you're a player going to Leicester, it's a big, big club. So Arsenal are having a bad time. The owners get a lot of flack, but they spent a lot of money. And they'll probably spend another 50 million on other players. So I'm not sure on Arteta. I think time will show he's probably a brilliant coach more than a brilliant manager. We'll see. I could be wrong on that. I don't know how long he's going to get. They were better at the end of last season, but they have a soft centre, as we know. But I like a lot of the players. The younger players are terrific. Ben White's a good signing. Smith Rowe, love him. Tierney, the left back from Scotland, fantastic. They have got some very, very good players. Not sure about the front two, Aubameyang and Lacazette. They probably need to move on, and they probably need to youthen up the front area with a little bit more hunger in those areas, because those players are serious money. So it's a great club, Arsenal. So they're going to lose their shit before they get their shit together.
Well, how about Rafa? We didn't speak of him yet, coming back to Merseyside. I know you've had your own opinions on Rafa as a Liverpool fan. What do you make to him going to Everton?
Yeah, great win. Southampton started well. Armstrong showing he could step up and score. What Benitez has done very simple is he's looked at Everton and gone, if I can put in 25 crosses a game into that box with the size of the players they've got, we're going to be a good team. So he's kept it simple, stupid, kiss, which is good from Rafa. It'll take him time. Eventually, he'll want to focus on the clean sheets, because that's in Rafa's DNA. He loves a clean sheet. But for now, they're a very, very old-fashioned football side. They're very much, not a 4-4-2, but they very much play with wide players. They very much have that target man in Calvin Lewin. They very much have size and physicality in midfield, as Decore showed when he was scoring that goal. I think Benitez, and to be fair to him, they've spent like 3 million quid this summer. So they've spent some serious money the last few years and big players. Hasn't gone to plan. He's gone in there, and he's the type of manager that will be very methodical in January. He'll probably maybe they'll bring one more in before the end of the window, but he'll say to the owner, give me 5 months to work with what I've got. Come January, we'll add. And he did this at Liverpool, add a couple every window, to make them very competitive. They won't be anyone's mugs, Everton. Not my cup of tea football style-wise or whatever, but he's been a world-class manager. I mean, you don't win titles of Valencia in the era of Real Madrid domination and Barcelona domination. You don't win the Champions League with a Liverpool team, who was owned by those Americans at the time who were clowns. And you don't go, pretty much to the last few games versus Alex Ferguson, one of the best Man United teams, without knowing what you're doing. So, Everton, look, they're in good hands. Do you know what I mean? It's like they probably wanted more, expected more, but they've got some really, really good players. So, look, the Premier League is going to be fascinating. For me, it's 2 leagues. You're going to have 4 or 5 teams vying for the top 4, and then you're going to have 15 teams vying for knowing where the fuck they're going to finish from 6th all the way to 20th. So it will be interesting. Listening to Patrick Vieira in his post-match interview talking about more players, that's a worry for me always with any new manager. Because he said, like, we have to bring a few more players in. I mean, they brought a lot of players in this summer. I don't want to hear my new manager, straight away after a defeat.
Coming with the excuses.
I want my new manager to be calm and composed and go judge us in time. Yes, maybe there's a bit more recruitment to be done. We're very happy with what we've got. It used to irritate the shit out of me every time you hear Steve Evans' interview. It'd be like, I need one more player. I need one more player. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, our fans are a bit like that at the moment with a striker. Some of them are taking the manager's interview from Saturday about he needs another striker. Of course, if we can strengthen and get the right one, we'll get another striker. But strikers are like prehistoric dinosaurs. It's just impossible to find, at the moment. And we're lucky with the ones we've got. And the other thing you'd go is, if you play with one up front or one behind and you've already got 4 or 5, you bring in another one for the sake of what?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're fully fit and you got Dembele, Clark Harris, you got Marriott, you got Sammy Schmottix, you got Ricky, obviously, who's back in 3 months. How many strikers do you want in the building? Or not just call them strikers, call them forwards. You've got to be careful. There's got to be a balance to a squad as well, because otherwise it becomes too much. And then
you just stockpiling them.
You stockpiling them, and budget-wise, it makes no sense, and room in the building. So, we have to be methodical in what we do. So that's always been my point of view. And we have to bring the right ones in for the right reason. I can go out and sign any striker we want from lower leagues tomorrow, but they've got to be, can they step up? Can they do it? Is there another Dwight Gale out there? So we're doing our due diligence at the moment. There is a striker we've got our eye on. I'm not going to say if it's from above or below. We want to buy. Club would only say loan. We're not interested in loaning. Might not happen in this window, possibly January. Do you know what I mean? So the stuff being worked on, but again, for the right reasons, not just because of panic or rush or whatever.
Now you're talking about kind of the 2 leagues within the Premier League, and Aston Villa are one of those that you don't necessarily know whether they're going to finish 7th or 18th or anywhere in between. And I want to come to Jack Grealish, and
sure.
Maybe this is a question that goes beyond Jack Grealish and Aston Villa, but it's using what's happened with Aston Villa and Jack Grealish as kind of the case in point. Is when you have a talisman that your entire club is built around, mm-hmm. and that talisman leaves. And I think that, because of the way that you've approached things in terms of being a selling club, I think that that's oftentimes probably happened to you as well, where you've got, the best player who has done really well, has become the focal point, he leaves. Like, how do you fill that gap? Do you fill that gap with someone who is always going to be a step down from the player that you lost, or at least to start with? Or do you think differently about, okay, I'm going to spread that money in a few different areas and try and maybe take a different approach?
So we always had Maddison for 4 years, 5 years. It was our main talisman, goals, assists, everything else. But we never got in the playoffs. We never won promotion. So we made the decision to move on from him. And we brought in Schmottix, and we brought in other players, and we created more of a team-like environment where it wasn't about the one player. And yes, whilst we had Ivan Toney, we still had a squad of players that were very good. And what we now are in a position to do is that it's not just about a Dembele. It's not about a Marriott. It's not about a Clark Harris. Do you know what I mean? We have a squad of winners, that can win. And it's not down to one good player. There's one good player. If you rely everything on one good player, it's a recipe for disaster. And we learned that. We educated ourselves through the whole, Maddison fiasco. And in years gone by, yes, we've had that one big player that we've sold. But the club can't just be about one player. So, we've brought in some very, very good players that we feel over the next 24 months will grow, will be, Randall has been brilliant. You know what I mean? He's only 21. He's stepped up. He's been fantastic. Do you know what I mean? We've got Poku in the building who's going to do the same in time. We've signed some, we feel, good attacking depth. And, if we lost to Dembele, it's not the end of the world. Yes, he can be a game changer. Yes, he can do dazzling things. Yeah. But it's not about Sariki Dembele. It's about the 11 players on the pitch. So, what Villa did for me was the right thing to do. They're never getting in the Champions League. They're never winning a league title. They get a 25-year-old they've had so much time out of, promotions out of. You take your 100 million, you go out and sign 3 players. Danny Ings' goals will help more than Jack Grealish's assists. Buendia and Bailey will turn out to be terrific acquisitions for the team. So that business has been very sensible business. Look, they had a disaster against Watford on Saturday, but that's no shame because Watford were, next to us, the best home team in the country last year. We finished second to them by a couple of points for home form. So there's no shame that a lot of teams are going to lose to Watford. Last time Liverpool went to Vicarage Road 2 years ago, they got thumped 3-0. So we've been unbeaten for however long. So, Villa will be a good team. Will they be in that top 6? Not sure. But they'll definitely be. The shit they've gone through in recent years, I think where they are right now, they've got to be very happy.
Yeah. So it's like they got to take it as an end of an era, you're going to move on from that, and then you got to think a little bit differently about how you spend your money and what.
Yeah, absolutely. So eventually Leicester will do the same with Madison.
Yeah.
Clubs will do that. So Liverpool have done that before. Coutinho's era ended, and it paid for Van Dijk and Alisson to come in, and it led to league titles. So instead of it being about Coutinho, we suddenly got a defender and a goalkeeper that allowed us to win a league title. So, sometimes it's not about the sum of one part. Mm-hmm. It's the sum of all parts.
Now, you had Sir Alex Ferguson in the stand the last couple of weeks.
He's banned. I told the gaffer on Saturday.
He's brought bad luck.
Yeah. He went back to United and they trashed Leeds or whatever else. But that was great having Sir Alex. He was staying with the gaffer for a couple of weeks. I spent a good bit of time with him after the Plymouth game on Tuesday night when we lost 4-0. I'm in the gaffer's office. Me and him were having a good chuckle. Not about the result, but about things in general. I said, geez, it's going to be a really bad, enjoyable drive home with the gaffer. And then obviously the manager walks in and he's just red. And me and Sir Alex look at each other in the eyes, kind of going, okay, no comment. And then obviously it's our job to try and calm the gaffer down, bring him back down to earth, and because sometimes as bad as you think it is, it's never as bad as you think it is. So it's my job to remind the gaffer before the baby goes out with the bathwater, before we start trying to sign 20 new players and transfer listing 10 players and changing formations, it's like, hang on, relax. It's been bad, but it's never as bad as you think. So let's go back to basics. Let's focus on what we got to do. There's a lot of belief in what we've done the last 20 months. Have that trust, So there was a lot of that going on, and I'm sure Sir Alex played the same game as I played with a manager for a few days and just kept them there because, I could tell he was hurting after Tuesday. And, in those situations, it's my job to make sure he gets smiling again.
And he pulled no punches in the interview, post-game interview.
He's very honest, and he would have been very upset because he gave it. I think we had like 7 teenagers in the squad against Plymouth, and we let ourselves down. Fair play to Plymouth, they were better. But like I said, it was early days. It was a bad night in the office. We haven't been good in the cups recently. The gaffer would have wanted a response from the younger players. He didn't get it. But that won't happen again with those younger players. They'll know next time. Look, we've got some great people off the pitch. The manager, the number 2, Matty Eddington, our first team coach, Scarfy who runs the academy, all the people we've got around the edges there, the analysts, to the fitness coach, to the sports science, to Tyler, the goalie coach. They're good people. We've now got a new set-piece coach who've come in, Andy Butler, ex-Doncaster caretaker manager. They're a good group of people. And the players are very lucky to have them because they're going to need them. I couldn't be happier with that side of how everything's going on at the club.
How many teams have, just for context for listeners, how many teams have a set-piece coach?
None really, I think, outside of the Champ and the Prem. Mm-hmm. It was something I was very strong on in June. I wanted a few things in June I'd put in my plan for the Champ. One was I wanted a set-piece coach, so it was winning the manager over on that one. And we got there. And I wanted us to hire a shrink to be available. I felt maybe it was more inches that we could use. So I wanted to basically put a shrink on let's call him a therapist. A
sports psychologist.
Yeah, so instead of a shrink, because that's rude. Because I've never had a problem. I've never used one myself. I never would. But I understand the necessity for one. And particularly in sports. In all walks of life, people need to talk. They get help. They do it. I've played shrink to loads of people who want to bounce off me and talk to me. So I offered that we pay one to come in twice a week, be available. If the players wanted to use them, great. If they didn't, they didn't. So for now, it's a no. Something we might do in the future. But it was, again, a suggestion for me, maybe some more inches to steal where we can. So you draw up a list of all. You're David Goliath in those leagues. And you draw up a list of, okay, what can we do differently than the Goliaths? What can we do to give us those inches? So I drew up that list myself and said, look, these are all the things, sports science, nutrition, sports psychologist, set-piece coach, our training ground, the little bits and pieces, how we travel away, all those things. If I can give my players a few more inches and it will help them, I'm going to do everything I can. So that was really, really pivotal for me in the summer.
Now, when you're recruiting a set piece coach, what's the CV that you're looking for? Is it just somebody who's renowned for being strong in set pieces, or what are you looking for?
No, somebody who's been in the game a long time. So we went and got somebody who's played like 600 games in defence, somebody who's played lower league football, someone who's been in the hustle and bustle, someone who's a caretaker manager of a League One club, somebody who will understand what we're trying to do, somebody who, as a captain and a leader, used to defend set plays and used to attack set plays. So we felt, and also he's got a relationship with a gaffer. He was a gaffer's player. We felt he would be a good addition. He's earning his stripes. He's learning. He was only caretaker for a while at Donny. He might want to manage in the game in the future. We felt there was a good opportunity for him to come in and show us what he's got, and vice versa. So there are all those things we're trying to do. So he's a really good guy. Really happy to have him. And again, complements everything we're doing. And time will tell whether or not he's going to be, a brilliant addition.
Now, when I saw the game on Saturday, I saw him at one point. The camera showed in on him with an iPad in his hand. So how much data? How much of the set pieces are data driven in terms of what you're encouraging the team to do?
There for us. That's something I've fucking rammed in. I mean, we're getting live stuff during the game. We're knowing how many miles people are running during the game. We're knowing where the last few set pieces came into our box. We're looking at all the little differences we can make. So everything is live and in real time. And there's some adjustment to that as well. On how do you take the info? How do you then get the info out? How do you change in game? It's very NFL-like. So, there are all those little things we're trying to change about what we do. Call it modernizing, some old school characters. So that's what I'm trying to do slowly but surely.
We got some listener questions in. You can always submit questions. Just send them on Twitter. You can send them via email to hardtruthfootball.com/contact. In fact, that's a contact form, or contact@hardtruthbusiness. Sorry, I'm going the business podcast, not the football one. Getting my podcast confused here. Contact@hardtruthfootball.com. We do have a few questions in. I'm going to start with a question from Zach. And Zach is a Posh fan. And Zach asks, earlier this year, young Peterborough defender Bobby Copping sadly had to retire due to a bad head injury. However, you did something really nice in offering him work in the academy. And I know we talked a little bit about that at the time. Zach just asked, what was the thinking there?
It's a great kid. Should have had a great career in football. Sometimes not just players, you get great characters, personality, characters, potential. And Bobby's got potential. And we just saw someone that shouldn't be lost to football just because an injury stopped him playing. Eddie Howe, similar years ago when he was at Bournemouth or Portsmouth, had to stop at 24, 25, went into the game of coaching, became manager of Bournemouth. You don't lose a good person. Football needs good people. And it was really, really important that we got behind Bobby. So we, as the owners, thought, what can we do? Kieran Scarf also came up with the idea, let's use him in the academy. Let's use him in the fans initiative thing. Obviously, he started his foundation. I donated a few grand to that. And, with his experience in football, everything that's gone on. So we're really happy. He's a great member of staff, good member of the club, a good reminder to everyone in football that, don't take your chances for granted. Anything can happen in this game. It could be gone before you know it. And really happy for him. He's a terrific young guy. He's going to have a great career outside of football.
Now we have a question from Dave from Down Under, who's a Preston fan. What do you make of Peter Ridsdale's time at Preston and him being appointed onto the EFL board as the championship representative?
He's good. We were one of the people who voted for him. I like Peter. I know he's got a history at Leeds. I know it wasn't great history. He's very good at what he does. He brings experience, good and bad. He's seen clubs that have overspent. So I actually think instead of criticising that experience, instead of always going down on somebody for mistakes that have been made, this is not just his fault what happened at Leeds. You can look at that and go, well, he's rebuilt his career. He's done a great job at Preston. He's ran that club really, really efficiently. He's ran that club that it's, a club that was in League One, has come out of League One's, got back up to the Championship, has got a good transfer policy, spend within their means, don't overdo it. I like Peter a lot. I think he's good for the game of football.
Now, Cowley's Cows on Twitter asks, how often do deals not happen after the player actually has agreed the move and he passes the medical? So do they still fall down at that kind of
Yes,
12th
I
hour?
mean, of course. Well, it's not usually after the medical. They usually first you speak to the agent and the player before they come in. Then they'll come in, and the idea of coming in is to meet the manager. All goes to plan. They have a medical. They do the media, the press. It can fall down when they meet the manager. And obviously, I discussed that in the last podcast. We've had that happen. It's happened a couple of times over the years I've been in charge. Very rare. I think it's happened 3 times in the 15 years I've been there. And usually it's been the right decision in the end. And it'll be driven by the manager. If he doesn't get the feel, if he suddenly meets a player where he's like, that player doesn't really want to be here, I'm not getting a great vibe from that player, we won't sign the player. So I have to back my manager in that case. Of course, I'll be gutted sometimes if the player that it's been highly coveted by us and we've chased. But that's football. And then obviously there's circumstances where a player will go for a medical and the medical will come back and it'll be a bad medical. And we've had that too. So that's just the life of football. That's the industry.
So I have a question from Tom Ford that came through Twitter. The question is, would you ever take a punt on someone like Jack Wilshere? And I'm wondering if Tom means, somebody who is injury prone, but he certainly has talent.
Yeah, I discussed earlier the only way you get a player is if they had serious injury issues the last few years. Funny enough, my one of my partners was like saying about Jack Wilshere the other day. And I'm just at the point where we've had issues with fitness and injuries and everything else. So we've got to be careful. And we've got to look at it and go, we're signing players for the right reasons. Of course, Wilshere was a top world class player. He's had his problems. Why haven't Bournemouth signed him? That surprised me. He's been there a long time. That's a club who could do it, a Jack Wilshere type signing. They're selling players, but he's not costing anything. So it's never come up for me in the recruitment, nor has the manager brought it up. So it's not something we'd visit at the moment. But I hope he goes on and he proves to everyone that he's a fit player and he signs with someone who plays 40, 50 games. Because there's a talent in there, and it's what's happened to him with his ankles, and he could have been one of England's best players. I mean, with his eyes shut. So it's one of them where you're like gutted. That's the dark side of football, where a player they can't shake off those issues. Their bodies are built differently. You know what I mean? You could suppose someone said they're made of glass, which would be harsh, but it's the truth. And then you get other players, like I've said to you, they play 600-700 games, they never have a knock. So I don't know how the human body
built
works.
Differently. Like some biometric kind of or otherwise.
It's bizarre. I don't know. So that's that in my opinion. But look, he'll get a move. I'm sure he'll sign. But he's got plenty of money. I don't think money's the driver. I think he's earned enough in his career so far. So be interesting to see where he goes next.
Mm-hmm. Now, a question from Dan, a Crystal Palace fan, and it's one I could have asked actually when we were talking about Palace earlier, because it's a little bit about Palace's summer recruitment. And Dan is asking, what do you think of Palace's summer recruitment and the appointment of Vieira? And actually, I want to add to this. I saw something over the week there was a chart in The Athletic where it had how are Premier League fans feeling, like happy, nervous, on the fence about their team's prospects this year. I think it had Palace as like the second most optimistic fan base in the Premier League, which kind of surprised me.
No, they've gone stale under Hodgson. You can imagine, you moan about the football you're watching. He had very experienced players. It was the same players every year. They'd sign new contracts. It was time for a reset there. So they've gone out and they've recruited some good young talent. Easy last year. You know what I mean? You see some of the players they've signed this year. They are good players and they're going to be exciting. They've got a new manager, Premier League legend. Is he going to be a good manager in the Premier League? I don't know. Hasn't been brilliant. That's, in his first 2 jobs. It'll be fascinating to see what happens. They've got new investment in there recently, I saw as well. So I guess for Palace fans, it's gone from stale to fresh and new. So that's why they're optimistic, because the bar wasn't very high to begin with. So they're a good club. They're run pretty well. I get on pretty well with Steve Parish, who's one of the owners. I think they'll do okay. I think it'll take time. It'll depend on how itchy they get trigger-wise and itchy feet-wise. If he loses 3-4 out of the first 5 games, what happens then? But they're going to have to stay the course, because it was definitely time for the reset. What they have got is Dougie Friedman's really good at what he does. Sir Alex was actually singing his praises the other day, because I think they live across the road from each other. So, good luck to Palace and Palace fans this season.
What's success look like for Palace this season?
Oh, staying up with all the changes, in my opinion. Staying up. I think the Premier League, teams that have come up will be stronger. Teams that, struggled last year will be stronger. Palace are going through that change. They've lost 12, 14 contracted players. They've lost a lot of experience. Scott Dan, Gary Cahill. They've got a new manager, a new focus, a new style, young players, a philosophy. I think it's growth, staying up. So, they do that, and then it's a nice building block.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's a question that came in. This is the last question from listeners, and it actually came in from producer Henry. And he's chancing his arm with a non-football question.
Okay.
Well, I guess there's some context with football. So Henry's actually talking about the 100 in cricket, so the new format that's been going on this summer in cricket. And, the idea of bringing in the 100 is to bring in a new audience to the sport.
Yeah.
And Henry just wonders, could football ever get to the same point where we're looking at different formats for football to bring in new audiences?
I don't think so. You've already got your five-a-sides, you've got your Masters events, you've got those kind of things going on. I'm not sure football will follow rugby with the sevens, the fives would be a version of that. The 100, no, I've read some of the ideas from some people where they talk about having, 4 quarters like the NFL. They talk about making the goals bigger. They talk about no offside rule, all these things. No, I'm a romantic. I like VAR. I like where we are at the game. I don't think we need to change it that much. I think we can bring younger audiences in there. Maybe the fan experience could be better. Maybe we could hear refs on the screen when we're watching football. Maybe we hear them in the stadium, get them more engaged that way. So no, I am a bit of an old-fashioned person in that way, though. I wouldn't want to see football being stripped down to 60-minute game. No draws. You go straight to penalty shootouts, all that kind of thing. And throw-ins become kick-ins and, all the other little changes they want to make. Not for me. Sorry, Henry. Go fuck yourself. And on that note,
so
just one thing, obviously, I wanted to mention before we go.
Yeah.
It's come out today, obviously, Clark Harris has been charged by the FA for tweets he made when he was 18, which, funny enough, was when he was at the club. I only found out about it recently. I don't know the context of the tweets. I do know that somebody, after we won promotion against Lincoln, dug into his tweets and probably spent 12 hours going through 10 years of tweets, found some tweets where he'd made some inappropriate comments, which obviously I don't, endorse. And once we've investigated and we go through it, I'll obviously learn more about that. At the moment, I don't know enough about it, but we're judging people on comments they made at 18. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm not sure how I feel about people who troll through people's social media. I hate this is the world my kids grow up in. I hate the fact that my kids could say something now and then lose a job or a career later in life. There is a statute of limitations on crimes in America in certain states where you could rob somebody and after 10 years, you're not allowed to be prosecuted. But in sports, someone puts out a mean tweet or says something fucking stupid, they're suddenly banned and fined and vilified. So it's how far it goes, I'm not sure. So I don't want to comment too much until, we answer the charges, the player answers the charges. But needless to say, if it doesn't go to plan, he will be banned. And I'm hoping it'll be a slap on the wrist. And I'm sure for whatever stupidity he said back then as a teenager, he'll apologise for in good time. But I can't speak for him.
Yeah. And I guess a reminder for everybody about what you put on social now will remain with you for potentially for the rest of your life. So, always be careful what you put out there.
And I warned you about the cricket. England are absolutely choking all over the fucking place. They've lost both openers in one ball, or in a couple of balls, and they're about to shit themselves and lose this test. Worst test captain in the history of England. World-class batsman, awful captain.
It's funny, we were talking about this just before we went on to hit the record button. So everyone listening will know what happened by the time this goes out. But it wasn't looking... We've turned...
bowling, a couple of rabbits with averages of 4 and they've got no slips. That just tells you everything about England's captain. You need to know. Worst English test team I've seen in years. So right now they're 1 for 2.
We've grasped defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yeah, absolutely. This morning after the first hour, they should have won this game. And this is what happens. When you have a positive, aggressive mindset, you can win. When you have a negative, conservative mindset, things can get yourself in trouble. On that note, I shall tune out. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We're breaking records with the podcast listening. Keep it up. Say it to your friends. Put comments on all the Apple Podcast area, Spotify. Those things help us grow. Thank you.
We'll be back next week.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.